The patient had been pronounced dead. The paperwork was finished. The room was cleaned. The bed was empty. And 3 nights later, multiple people saw him standing in the hallway. Hospitals are built around records, charts, timestamps, vitals, confirmations. Nothing happens without documentation. Nothing exists unless it's written down. And when someone dies in a hospital, that fact is recorded carefully, deliberately, and permanently, which is why what happened next should not have been possible. Welcome to Hospital Horrors, where we share unsettling, true-to-experience stories inspired by real hospitals and medical facilities. These are the moments whispered about during night shifts, the incidents that never make it into training manuals, and the experiences medical staff carry with them long after the building empties out. This story comes from a hospital where a patient did not stop appearing after death. Names and identifying details have been changed for privacy. The patient had been admitted for complications related to a chronic illness. He was older, thin, and quiet. The kind of patient staff worried about, but not in an urgent way. He didn't complain much. He followed instructions. He rarely pressed the call button. He stayed mostly to himself. Over several weeks, night shift staff grew familiar with him in the way you do when someone becomes part of the background of your routine. He liked the television volume low. He asked the same questions every evening. He thanked nurses for things most patients didn't notice. Nothing about him stood out. Until the night he died. The code was called just before 3 a.m. By the time the team arrived, it was already clear there was nothing more to be done. The patient was pronounced dead in his room, quietly, with only a few staff members present. The paperwork was completed. The body was prepared. The room was cleaned. By sunrise, the bed was empty. The patient was officially gone. 3 nights later, a CNA on the same unit reported seeing him. She was passing the room where he had stayed when she noticed a familiar shape sitting upright in the bed. She slowed instinctively, confused, assuming a new patient had been admitted overnight. Then she saw the bed number. That room had been unassigned since the patient's death. She stopped, looked again. The bed was empty. The CNA didn't say anything right away. Night shift fatigue plays tricks on perception. Shadows stretch. Reflections linger longer than they should. She told herself she had mistaken the light. The following week, a nurse charting at the station glanced up and saw the patient standing at the end of the hallway. Not clearly, not fully, just long enough to register recognition before he turned the corner. She stood up so fast her chair rolled backward. When she reached the corner, the hallway was empty. Security cameras showed nothing. Administration suggested stress. Then a patient asked about him. A newly admitted patient pressed the call button late at night and asked why the man in the hallway kept staring into their room. When asked to describe him, the patient gave a description that matched the deceased man exactly. The nurse checked the assignment board. No one matching that description was admitted. The patient insisted. He was just there, they said. He was standing by the door. The nurse documented the interaction and moved on. But the reports continued. A tech swore they heard the patient's voice coming from the room next to the nurse's station. A nurse found the call light on in his former room, despite no one being assigned there. Environmental services reported the television turning on by itself late at night in the same room, volume set exactly where the patient used to keep it. Each incident alone could be explained. Together, they formed a pattern. The room was removed from rotation. Officially, it was for maintenance. Unofficially, night shift staff stopped using it. Weeks passed without incident. Then his name appeared in the system again. Not on a chart, not on an admission. Just present. A nurse logging into the electronic system noticed his name briefly populate the patient list before disappearing. IT blamed a glitch. Later that week, a float nurse unfamiliar with the unit attempted to enter the room. She said someone answered from inside. A male voice, calm, polite, telling her she had the wrong room. When she opened the door, the room was empty. Security logs showed the door had not been accessed. No badge scans, no movement on camera. The nurse requested reassignment for the rest of the night. At some point, staff began to talk about him in hushed tones. Not openly, just enough to confirm that others had seen the same thing. Standing in doorways, sitting on the bed, walking the hall late at night. Always calm, always quiet, never interacting directly. Until one night, a nurse recognized him. She was new to the unit, had never cared for him while he was alive. She was checking vitals in a nearby room when she noticed an elderly man sitting in the chair by the window. She assumed he was family. She apologized for disturbing him and explained visiting hours were over. He smiled politely and told her he would leave soon. When she returned with security, the chair was empty. The nurse later described the man's smile. She said it wasn't frightening, just tired. Administration eventually investigated more thoroughly. Records confirmed the patient had died. The room had been cleaned. The bed reassigned multiple times since. There was no reason for his name to appear anywhere in the system. No reason for the room to behave as if it were occupied. Eventually, the reports stopped. Not because the activity ended, but because staff stopped reporting it. People learned not to linger near the room, not to acknowledge movement out of the corner of their eye, not to respond when the call light flickered briefly before going dark again. The room was quietly repurposed months later, the bed removed, supplies stored there instead. No one questioned it. Years later, a nurse who worked that unit said something that stayed with her. She said the patient never felt threatening, never aggressive, just present. As if he hadn't realized he was gone. Or perhaps didn't understand why no one responded anymore. Hospitals are designed to track people from the moment they arrive. They log your movements, your treatments, your exit. But sometimes, according to the people who work there, someone doesn't leave when the paperwork says they should. Sometimes the systems keep behaving as if they're still there, waiting to be acknowledged. Until next time, keep the lights on.